We're told that we face the biggest economic shock for over 300 years. Thus, governments and central banks have resorted to extreme forms of policy intervention. When it comes to the monetary policy from our central banks, it has already involved enormous volumes of asset purchases, seeing central bank balance sheets go vertical. Yet now we're being told, courtesy of CNN, that our economic systems are facing a brand new economic threat. Today we explore this so-called threat, so let's dive on in. Now, this channel provides global macro insights for informed investing, so do consider subscribing. So economist John Maynard Keynes coined the phrase the paradox of thrift. That is, that a rise in saving leads to a collapse in demand. Thus, when interest rates are cut, people respond by using any surplus cash that this generates by paying off their existing debts and improving their own personal balance sheets. But according to CNN, such people are now the threat to the economy. Seriously? Just how messed up is our economic system that in the midst of mass unemployment, the media points out that people are not going to get out and spend. Fortunately, our friendly, neighbourly central banks are here to help. This has seen the introduction of zero interest rate policies and even negative interest rates for those with cash holdings in some European banks. Thus, our central planners almost seem to believe that we need saving from ourselves. We need to be stimulated into going out and consuming and restoring aggregate demand. How dare we seek to actually improve our own personal balance sheets, but in fact, this is the very thing we should be doing after the sort of borrowing binge our economies have been on. Just think about a simple household balance sheet, which may consist of a house on one side and a mortgage as a liability on the other, as well as perhaps a car identified as an asset, but whose auto loan is a clear liability and may well exceed the actual value of the car. At a time of economic uncertainty, any prudent household should be saving to actually improve their financial position. This is what most companies will also focus upon doing by reducing their outflows and their expenses and building up a cash reserve. But no, we're told we should be consuming stuff for the good of our own economies. And our central planners have already put together a cunning plan to ensure that any saving goes firmly punished. Policies such as zero or even negative interest rates, quantitative easing, and the pursuit of inflation targets are key means by which savings can be at the very least discouraged and certainly punished. Saving becomes an almost pointless exercise. And they argue that this is absolutely fundamental to our recovery because 70% of our economies are derived from consumption. Yet greater analysis of this statistic by economist Mark Skousen reveals that actually only around 30% of the economy comes down to consumption. As he states, the reality is that GDP measures only the value of finished or final goods and services and leaves out all the business-to-business transactions necessary to bring unfinished intermediate products to final use. Consequently, GDP way overestimates consumer spending and vastly undervalues business investment and spending in the so-called make economy. Indeed, as Larry Kudlow has put it, though not 1 in 1,000 recognises it, it is business, not consumers, that are the heart of the economy. When businesses produce profitably, they create income-paying jobs and then consumers spend. Profitable firms also purchase new equipment because they need to modernise and update all of their tools, structures and software. Now, this fits perfectly with Baptiste's law that the production of a product creates demand for another product by providing something of value, which can be exchanged for that other product. In essence, that products are paid for with products. consider a butcher who exchanges meat with a baker to allow them to both enjoy a beef or steak sandwich. Their surplus products are effectively their savings, which they would sell in exchange for currency. Indeed, it's that currency that greases the wheels of such commercial activity and offers durability to otherwise perishable goods. Yet the Federal Reserve and other central banks like to ignore Say's law, this fundamental principle of economics. Instead, they create money out of nothing. Historically, a gold or silver mine would provide the money where the expertise, knowledge and endeavour in the mine staff and management would realise the new metal deposits. This commercial enterprise creates additional demand, creating jobs, furthering investment and leading to incomes rising. Meanwhile, savings should enable us to actually store our wealth and delay our demand today for greater demand in the future. Such prudence and good financial management should be rewarded. And so our CNN reporter outlines to us that if everybody saved, the economy would collapse. Well, yes, it would have a significant impact upon the economy, but the real problem here is all of the debt that has actually been amassed by firms, by households, and by the government, aided and abetted by our central banks. This debt is the antithesis of saving and means that demand is consumed today at the expense of future demand. You reap what you sow, and by ignoring key principles of economics, our central banks have promoted enormous credit creation and artificially low interest rates to boost short-term demand at the expense of future demand. It is for these reasons that increasing numbers of people are rightly moving their savings out of dubious debt-fueled bubble economies and transferring their fiat currency for hard, tangible money in gold, silver, or even cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin. It is these forms of storage which have the long-term deflationary potential to act as a permanent store of value. So far this year, gold has now attained all-time highs against every currency bar the US dollar. And this saving feeds the coin dealers and miners and the transportation that acts to preserve your future purchasing power. But as for the debt bubble bursting, well, excessive debt bubbles need to be burst, and today's savings are tomorrow's future consumption. By reducing our consumption today, society allows greater consumption tomorrow. And to end this video, I could find no better words than those of Ralph Waldo Emerson. But please do consider subscribing. Thanks ever so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye.